The Grand Imperial Chamber buzzed with an energy that could only be described as barely contained panic, wrapped in expensive robes. Councillor Zix, 427, tapped all four of their appendages nervously against the crystalline table, creating a sound that made High Chancellor Vexora want to molt prematurely. "Would you please," Vexora's voice crackled through their translator, "cease that infernal tapping before I have you relocated to the methane mines of Rigel 9? The tapping stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse. Around the table, representatives from 37 of the most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy sat in various states of distress. Some were oozing stress hormones, others were changing colors involuntarily, and at least one had entered a protective hibernation state, though that might have just been nap time for the Dormanian delegate. "The numbers don't lie," First Minister Krell announced, their bioluminescent patches flashing with each word. "The humans have expanded their territory by 47% in the last solar cycle alone. They're consuming resources at an unprecedented rate, establishing colonies on worlds we deemed uninhabitable, and worst of all, they paused for dramatic effect. They're doing it all without asking our permission." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Not asking permission was simply not done in polite galactic society. "But surely," a voice chirped from the back, "we can reason with them. Have we tried sending strongly worded communiques?" Chancellor Vexora's exoskeleton rattled with barely suppressed laughter. "We've sent 17 strongly worded communiques. Do you know what they did? They framed them. Framed them. They hang in their space stations as what they call conversation pieces." The chamber erupted in horrified whispers. Framing threats? Using them as decoration? It was unheard of. "There's more," Krell continued, their bioluminescence now a disturbing shade of mauve. "They've started what they call trade relations with several of our protectorate species. They're offering them fair deals and mutually beneficial agreements. It's causing chaos in our carefully regulated economic systems." Chancellor Vexora raised all three of their primary appendages for silence. "We've analyzed every option available within our standard protocols. Diplomatic pressure has failed. Economic sanctions? They barely noticed. Military action? They shuddered. After reviewing their historical records, our strategic AI recommended immediate surrender rather than armed conflict." "Then what options remain?" someone squeaked from the middle of the table. A smile spread across Vexora's feeding apparatus. "There is one solution, one organization that has never failed, that operates outside our normal protocols, that can solve our human problem with surgical precision." Understanding dawned across the assembled faces, appendages, and sensory clusters. "You don't mean," Zix 427 whispered. "Yes," Vexora nodded solemnly. "Contact the Obsidian Shadows. It's time to have some humans removed from the equation." The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was the silence of hope. Surely the galaxy's most feared assassination guild could handle a few primitive bipeds. How wrong they were. Deep within an asteroid fortress orbiting a dead star, Guildmaster Nyx studied the contract floating before them in holographic detail. The payment offered was astronomical enough to buy several small star systems. Their compound eyes reflected the scrolling terms as specialized appendages tapped commands into the quantum interface. The Obsidian Shadows hadn't earned their reputation by accident. For 12,000 cycles, they had shaped galactic history from the shadows, their very name causing planetary governments to crumble. Their methods were as diverse as their members. Poison masters from the gas giants of Helios, shapeshifters from the Andromeda Rim, and telepathic assassins from dimensions better left unnamed. Guildmaster Nyx called for an assembly of their top operatives. Within hours, the fortress's central chamber filled with beings that most species only saw in their nightmares, if they saw them at all. "The Empire," Nyx's voice resonated through both air and mind space, "has requested our services regarding the human expansion problem." A three-dimensional map of human-controlled space materialized above the gathering. "They've selected these targets for elimination." Assassin Prime Cthulhu, whose species had evolved specifically for hunting prey across 12 dimensions, raised a phase-shifted tentacle. "With respect, Guildmaster, I've been observing these humans. Their pattern recognition capabilities are disturbing." "Elaborate," Nix commanded, noting an unusual tremor in Cthulhu's normally steady tentacle. "Last week I spent 3 days in quantum camouflage studying a human settlement. On the 4th day, a human child pointed at my exact location and said, 'Mum, the air looks funny there.' The mother replied, 'Don't worry, honey, it's probably just another alien assassin,' and continued preparing something called a peanut butter sandwich." Murmurs rippled through the assembled killers. Quantum camouflage being spotted by a child? Impossible. Toxin. Mistress Vish, whose poison collection could eliminate every species in 7 galaxies, spoke next. "Their resistance to toxins defies logic. They willingly consumed substances that would kill most species for pleasure. They call it spicy food and coffee." "Perhaps physical elimination would be more effective," suggested Shadow Walker Zex, whose people had perfected the art of molecular dismantlement. "About that," Cthulhu interjected, their tentacles now definitely trembling. "I watched a human survive what they called a minor fender bender, a collision at speeds that would atomize most species. They emerged from their transport device, examined the damage, and expressed frustration about their insurance premiums." Guildmaster Nix's compound eyes narrowed. In 12 millennia, they had never seen their top assassins exhibit such hesitation. These humans were clearly more than they appeared. "We will need more information," Nix decided. "Proceed with surveillance only. I want detailed reports on their capabilities before we accept this contract." They paused, considering. "And someone explain to me what a peanut butter sandwich is. It might be important." The assembled assassins relaxed visibly, grateful for the cautious approach. None of them wanted to admit it, but humans made them nervous. Very nervous indeed. Assassin Prime Cthulhu regarded their target through specialized quantum optics from what should have been an impossible vantage point. The space between spaces, a dimensional fold where no being should be able to detect them. Their target was a high-ranking human diplomat who had recently negotiated particularly favorable trade terms with 3 Empire Protectorate worlds. The humans' daily routine defied all logical analysis. They would wake at different times each day, sometimes consuming their stimulant brew, coffee, immediately, other times waiting hours. They would occasionally sprint to their transport vehicle, muttering about being late, moving at speeds that shouldn't be possible without cybernetic enhancement. But it was the weekend observations that truly disturbed Cthulhu. The human would voluntarily subject themselves to what appeared to be torture sessions they called CrossFit, followed by the consumption of something called a protein shake that violated several laws of biochemistry. After 2 weeks of surveillance, Cthulhu decided to make their move. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Create a microfracture in the human's personal transport vehicle's atmospheric containment system. A slow leak of atmosphere during their morning commute would result in a peaceful loss of consciousness and subsequent death. Clean, untraceable, and foolproof. Or so they thought. The next morning, Cthulhu watched in horror as their perfect plan unraveled. The human entered their vehicle, immediately noticed the slightly different sound in the air circulation system, and rather than succumb to the carefully calculated atmospheric depletion, they simply rolled down their window. "Damn climate controls acting up again," the human muttered, then proceeded to commute while singing along to something called death metal at volumes that would incapacitate most species. Cthulhu, following in a parallel dimension, felt their tentacles go numb with disbelief. But worse was yet to come. The human actually stopped at a maintenance facility where a technician immediately identified the sabotage. "Looks like someone tried to off you," the technician said casually. The diplomat laughed. "Again? That's the 3rd time this month. Different method, though, getting creative. Hey, while I'm here, can you check the oil?" Cthulhu slithered back to the guild fortress in a state of professional crisis. The report they had to deliver to Guildmaster Nix was the most difficult of their 3-century career. "Let me understand this correctly," Nix said. their compound eyes reflecting a mix of disbelief and growing concern. Not only did the target survive, but they treated an assassination attempt as a minor inconvenience and used it as an opportunity for routine vehicle maintenance. Correct, Guildmaster. Cathal's tentacles drooped in shame. But there's more. While at the maintenance facility, I observed the technician and the target discussing previous assassination attempts as if they were reviewing entertainment options. They actually rated them. Apparently, I scored higher than last week's attempt with the quantum phase disruptor, because in their words, at least this one showed some creativity. Nix's exoskeleton shifted colors rapidly, a sign of deep disturbance. Did you gather any additional intelligence during your surveillance? Yes, Guildmaster. Humans appear to have an informal ranking system for assassination attempts. They gather at designated meeting places called bars to compare experiences. The current highest-rated attempt involved something they call glitter bombs, though I was unable to determine the exact nature of this weapon. The Guildmaster's chambers fell silent, except for the soft hum of quantum computers processing this disturbing information. Finally, Nix spoke. We need to convene a full guild council. These humans, they're not like anything we've encountered before. Cthulhu could only agree, their tentacles still trembling at the memory of that casual laugh, that terrifying death metal music, and the horrifying normalcy with which humans treated their own mortality. The secure archives of the Obsidian Shadows hummed with more activity than they had seen in centuries. Guildmaster Nix had assembled a research team of their finest information specialists, including members of species that existed partially in data streams. What they discovered sent ripples of unease through the entire organization. These records can't be accurate, Archive Master Bythos announced during the emergency council meeting. Their crystalline form flickered with distress as they projected the findings. According to multiple sources, humans fought not one, but 2 planet-wide wars, against themselves. The assembled guild members processed this information with growing horror. But that's not the most disturbing part, Bythos continued. They survived. Not only survived, they emerged stronger. They developed spaceflight technology while still fighting among themselves. It's as if conflict actually accelerates their development. Assassin Prime Cthulhu shared their database of failed assassination attempts from the past month. The list scrolled endlessly on the holographic display. Attempt 47. Target nullified gravity in their living quarters. Human treated it as an entertainment device. Invited friends over for what they called a zero-G party. Attempt 53. Deployed neurotoxin through ventilation system. Target identified the poison, isolated it, and sent it to their scientists to study its potential medical applications. Attempt 61. Temporal displacement trap set in target's regular eating establishment. Human walked through temporal field, complained about déjà vu, continued eating something called a ghost pepper burger, which was itself nearly lethal by galactic standards. Toxin Mistress Vish, still recovering from their own failed attempt, spoke up. I analysed their entertainment data streams. They turn assassination attempts into something called action movies. They celebrate their near-death experiences. It's unnatural. A junior assassin, fresh from field observation, raised a trembling appendage. I observed a human ritual called Black Friday. They willingly trample each other for discounted goods. How do we assassinate a species that does that for fun? The revelations continued as more guild members shared their experiences. Shadow Walker Zex had discovered humans regularly jumped from high altitudes with fabric devices they called parachutes, for entertainment. Quantum Blade Master Rix reported finding entire human facilities dedicated to simulating combat scenarios called paintball courses. There's more, Bythos added, their crystalline form now pulsing with anxiety. They have a concept called extreme sports. I've compiled a brief summary. No, Guildmaster Nix interrupted, their compound eyes dimming. I don't think we can handle any more examples today. The assembled assassins sat in uncomfortable silence, processing the implications. These humans didn't just survive assassination attempts, they turned them into hobbies. They didn't just resist death, they seemed to taunt it. "One final report," Bythos said quietly. "We found records of something humans call gender reveal parties. The property damage statistics alone. Several guild members promptly entered voluntary stasis lock." Guildmaster Nix's exoskeleton had shifted to a deep shade of contemplative blue. "In 12,000 cycles, we've never encountered a species that treats their own mortality as a suggestion. Every failed attempt seems to make them stronger, more resilient, more innovative." The archive displays showed images of humans rock climbing without safety equipment, diving with creatures called sharks, and something particularly disturbing called free running. "I'm beginning to understand," Nix continued, "why the Empire's strategic AI recommended immediate surrender. These humans don't just survive, they thrive on challenges that would eradicate most species. They've turned assassination resistance into an art form." A young guild initiate spoke up from the back of the chamber. "Maybe we should just send them a strongly worded letter instead." The resulting laughter had an edge of hysteria to it. Everyone present knew that the Obsidian Shadows faced an unprecedented situation. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that seemed fundamentally immune to their arts, not through superior technology or defensive capabilities, but through sheer, incomprehensible humanity. Guildmaster Nix stood motionless before the quantum display, their compound eyes fixed on the streaming data that scrolled endlessly through the air. After 3 straight cycles of reviewing human historical records, they had finally understood why their best assassins were failing. And the revelation was both beautiful and terrifying. "Assemble the High Council," they commanded. "Everyone needs to hear this." Within moments, the fortress's central chamber filled with the guild's most elite members. The tension in the room was palpable, causing several of the more sensitive species to activate their protective fields. "We've been approaching this completely wrong," Nix began, their voice resonating through both physical and quantum spaces. "We've been treating humans as targets to be eliminated. Instead, we should have been studying them as the galaxy's greatest survival artists." The holographic display erupted with images. Humans surviving in environments ranging from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts, from oceanic depths to mountain peaks that pierced the clouds. "Consider their warfare history," Nix continued. "When faced with superior weapons, they didn't surrender, they adapted. When confronted with impossible odds, they invented new solutions. They turned their greatest defeats into stepping stones for advancement." Archive Master Bythos projected a new series of data streams. "They call it failing forward. Every assassination attempt we've made hasn't just failed, it's made them stronger. They're treating our efforts as impromptu research and development sessions." The chamber erupted in murmurs as Nix revealed their most disturbing discovery. Humans don't just survive, they catalogue their survival experiences and share them with others. They have entire information networks dedicated to what they call life hacks and survival tips. They're collectively learning from every attempt on their lives. Toxin Mistress Vish's colour patterns shifted in distress. "You mean they're using our assassination attempts as training exercises?" "Precisely," Nix confirmed. "But here's the truly remarkable part. They do this unconsciously. It's not a developed defense mechanism. It's their natural state of being. They call it rolling with the punches, or making the best of a bad situation." The Guildmaster's exoskeleton shifted to a deep purple of finality. "Therefore, I am making an unprecedented decision. The Obsidian Shadows will refuse the Empire's contract. Not because we can't complete it, but because attempting to assassinate humans is fundamentally futile. They've turned survival into an art form that surpasses our capacity for dealing death." A heavy silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the soft hum of quantum computers and the occasional nervous shuffling of appendages. "Besides," Nix added, their voice carrying a note of what might have been admiration, "if we keep trying, they'll probably just turn our assassination techniques into an extreme sport. And none of us want to see competitive assassination survival become the next human Olympic event. The vote to refuse the contract was unanimous. For the first time in 12,000 cycles, the Obsidian Shadows had met their match, in a species that treated near-death experiences as learning opportunities and assassination attempts as entertainment. Chancellor Vexora's exoskeleton had developed an unfortunate stress-induced crack when they received the Obsidian Shadow's refusal. The message was brief, professional, and utterly terrifying. Contract declined. Strongly recommend reconsidering your approach to human relations. Bill for surveillance attached. The Imperial Council chamber, once a symbol of galactic order, now resembled a panic room for the aristocratically inclined. First Minister Krell hadn't stopped glowing anxiety purple for 3 straight days. Perhaps, suggested Councillor Zix 427, we should try the Silent Blade Syndicate. They declined before we even finished the transmission, Vexora replied, their voice modulator crackling with stress. Apparently, they'd rather dissolve their 1,000-year-old organization than take a contract involving humans. The Nebula Night Stalkers. Filed for early retirement, all of them. Simultaneously. The Quantum Quietus? Changed their profession. They're now selling something called life insurance to humans and making more profit than they ever did as assassins. The situation deteriorated further as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The mere mention of assassination contracts against humans had sparked a professional crisis in the galactic underground. Crime syndicates were rebranding themselves as security consultants. Notorious hitmen were applying to human universities, claiming they needed to understand the impossible before continuing their careers. Did you know, First Minister Krell announced, reading from their datapad with growing horror, that humans have something called parkour? They treat our most sophisticated urban pursuit and elimination techniques as a recreational activity. The chamber fell silent as security footage played, showing humans casually defying death and gravity in ways that made professional assassins question their career choices. Word of human resilience spread through the Empire like a quantum virus. Trade routes mysteriously rerouted to avoid human space, not out of hostility, but out of a growing species-wide recognition that humans were simply built different. The Xenobiological Psychology Council just submitted their analysis, announced a junior minister, their tentacles trembling as they read the report. They classify human survival instincts as, and I quote, aggressively opportunistic with a side of constructive chaos. Chancellor Vexora's stress crack widened. What does that even mean? Apparently it means that humans don't just survive threats, they reverse engineer them for entertainment and profit. The Council recommends classifying Earth as a Class X anomaly, a planet that produces species that treat mortal danger as a growth opportunity. The implications rippled through Imperial space. Species that had previously looked down on humans as primitive now spoke of them in whispered tones. Stories spread about human capabilities, growing more elaborate with each telling. A rumor circulated that humans could survive in vacuum for at least a little while just to spite the void. Insurance companies across the galaxy began adding human involvement clauses to their policies. Military strategists rewrote their manuals, creating an entirely new classification for human-level threat response labeled simply, Don't. As the Empire watched their carefully constructed plans crumble, Chancellor Vexora reached a devastating conclusion. They wouldn't just have to leave humans alone. They'd have to completely rethink their approach to galactic diplomacy. Because a species that treated assassination attempts as professional development opportunities wasn't just dangerous. They were terrifyingly innovative. The formal recognition ceremony of human sovereignty took place in the Grand Imperial Chamber, though not before several structural reinforcements were added to accommodate human enthusiasm. Chancellor Vexora had specifically requested padding on all sharp corners after reading reports about typical human celebration behaviors. The human diplomatic team arrived precisely 3 minutes late, throwing off the meticulously planned 12-hour ceremonial schedule and sending several protocol droids into emergency shutdown. They apologized, explaining they'd stopped to help jumpstart a stranded Jovian freighter, using nothing but a human device called a smartphone and what they called percussive maintenance. Guildmaster Nix attended as an honored guest, their compound eyes watching with professional appreciation as the human diplomats casually avoided 3 separate automated security measures simply by walking in exactly the wrong way at exactly the right time. The Guildmaster had never seen such eloquent chaos. The ceremony itself was mercifully brief, as human attention spans had become legendary across the galaxy. Chancellor Vexora signed the recognition treaty with all 6 appendages, while trying not to think about how the humans had managed to get such favorable terms, or why the treaty document was printed on something called coffee-stained paper that the humans insisted was traditional. Afterwards, during what the humans called a casual mixer, which several species attended in full battle armor just to be safe, Guildmaster Nix approached the human diplomatic team. "Your species' survival capabilities are truly remarkable," they commented, offering a traditional Assassin's Guild compliment by demonstrating all their hidden weapons were powered down. "Oh, you mean the obstacle course outside?" one diplomat replied cheerfully. "Yeah, getting into the building was fun. Great security setup you've got. Reminded me of that Ninja Warrior show. We should totally host the next intergalactic championships here." Nix's exoskeleton shifted through several colors of confusion before settling on a bemused purple. The humans had mistaken their most lethal security system for an entertainment facility. Of course they had. As the party wound down, Chancellor Vexora overheard 2 human diplomats chatting. "Hey, did you notice all those weird malfunctions in our cars and ships last month?" "Yeah, my mechanic made a fortune. Though I gotta say, the anti-grav failure in my apartment was pretty cool. Should have charged admission for that party." Good times. By the way, did you see the latest stats? Tourism to Earth is up 3,000% since we joined the galactic community. Apparently, we're listed as an extreme survival experience destination now. Nice. The Adventure Tourism Board will be thrilled. Pass the space chips. The Empire had spent astronomical sums trying to eliminate humanity. The galaxy's deadliest assassins had admitted defeat, and humans, in their infinite capacity for turning threats into opportunities, had somehow stumbled into becoming the galaxy's most prestigious survival training destination. In the end, the only ones who never knew about the assassination attempts were the humans themselves. They simply filed all the near-death experiences under Tuesday and moved on with their lives. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Guildmaster Nix was seriously considering opening a human-style parkour academy.